Hello everyone, I'm Đức Trung with VTV International. This is the English Bulletin, VTV News, coming to you live from Hanoi. First, let's get you up to date with the headlines. The 7th session of the Vietnamese National Assembly opened today in Hanoi. Foreign firms in Bình Dương deliver their first orders after a recent incident. And cultural artifacts go on display in Phu Thọ Province in celebration of the International Museum Day. Moving on to the first update of this hour, the 7th session of the National Assembly officially opened this morning, Tuesday, May the 20th, in Hanoi. More to follow in the following story.
Addressing the opening ceremony, National Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng said that the participating deputies would consider and approve 11 draft laws, in addition to several decrees and ordinances in the coming year. National Assembly delegates will also work on an amendment to Resolution 35 on the conducting of votes of confidence for people holding positions elected by the National Assembly and Pupil Councils. The National Assembly Chairman also emphasized that the participating deputies will talk about the EC issues on the session's agenda.
China's illegal installation of its drilling rig within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and large escort, including military ships and aircraft, is an extremely serious violation of Vietnam's territorial sovereignty. The act runs counter to the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea UN clause and the Declaration of the Conduct of Parties in the EC or DOC and agreements reached by the two countries' high-ranking leaders. The Vietnamese people resolutely oppose the illegal action of China, while the international community shows special interest and solidarity with Vietnam. The National Assembly will hear and discuss the government's report on the EC situation and give opinions on this issue in the spirit of taking every possible measure to firmly protect the national sovereignty while maintaining a peaceful and stable environment for national development and preserving the tradition of friendship between the people of Vietnam and China.
According to the top legislative leader, the National Assembly will spend time hearing the government's report on the implementation of socio-economic development in 2013. They will also give feedback to 16 other bills.
The 8th ASEAN Defense Ministerial Meeting, or ADMM-8, opened this morning in Naypyidaw, Myanmar. Vietnamese Defense Minister General Phùng Quang Thanh headed the Vietnamese delegation to this event.
The participating ministers spent time to commemorate the late Lao Defense Minister, who died in an airplane crash in Siêng Khoang a few days ago. At the meeting, the delegates discussed and approved defense cooperation programs in the region during the 2014-2016 period. They also discussed the establishment of a hotline among the ASEAN defense ministers, as well as non-conventional security issues, among others. The participating ministers also expressed their concerns about the situation in the EC and agreed to seek peaceful solutions to the disputes. It was also reported that ADMM-8 ASEAN defense ministers held an unofficial meeting with the Chinese defense minister this afternoon.
Hanoian Nguyễn Văn Tị has been meticulously collecting photographs and writings of President Ho Chi Minh for the last 45 years. His collection now encompasses 4,000 pieces from different periods in the late president's life and career. In our next story, let's take a look at this impressive collection.
At 98 years of age, Nguyễn Văn Tị is still remarkably healthy and perceptive. He's able to recount every detail about his image collection of late President Ho Chi Minh.
Many of these photos were taken during the resistance wars against the French. Some show Uncle Ho discussing strategy with General Võ Nguyên Giáp, Trường Chinh and Phạm Văn Đồng. Others show him crossing forts and streams. These photos are rare, so I treasure them a lot. My favorites are those of Uncle Ho and little children, both Vietnamese and foreign.
He started collecting photos of Uncle Ho since 1969. He has also cut out images and teachings of the late president from newspapers. To date, he has garnered nearly 4,000 photos and teachings of Uncle Ho. The collection is divided into 26 albums, all carefully captioned.
I like to arrange the photos in albums as I go. I started collecting upon Uncle Ho's passing in 1969. After I retired from my job at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I have continued expanding the collection. I'm still at it now. It's been almost 50 years since I started.
He hopes that his collection could come in handy in schools as teaching materials so that children can learn more about late President Ho Chi Minh.
The cultural center in our hamlet has a reading room where everyone can come and look at the collection on 2 evenings each week. I think that's really useful. The collection includes teachings by President Ho Chi Minh, and that still hold great value today.
By continuing his quest to collect physical memories of President Ho Chi Minh, he is doing his part to honor the virtue and intellect of the late president, a deed that will be treasured by generations to come.
Vietnam's history is full of patriotic wars to protect the country's sovereignty and independence. On the occasion of celebrating the 124th birthday of the late President Ho Chi Minh, lessons from the most respected president are told to encourage patriotism while the country's sovereignty in the East Sea is being challenged.
A picture of President Ho Chi Minh talking with the Vietnamese pioneer troop before entering to take the capital in 1954 was engraved at the front gate of the Hung King's Temple in Phu Thọ province. In this event, the late president delivered his well-known message, "The Hung Kings found our nation. Our mission is to protect it." Major General Nguyễn Hiền had the privilege to be at this event.
The late president shared that we inherited a patriotic tradition in our long-lasting history. From centuries ago to the most recent era of Uncle Ho, Vietnamese people have always done their utmost to protect the country's sovereignty. In his words, President Ho Chi Minh inspired younger generations to continue our patriotic history of over 4,000 years of building a united and independent country.
Geographically, Vietnam is a gateway between the East Sea and larger area of the Southeast Asia. Thus, the nation's sovereignty has often been threatened. Vietnamese people always respect peace in the area and will protect the country's sovereignty by peaceful means, given the current rising tension in the East Sea.
The lesson from late President Ho Chi Minh still holds a strong inspiration, especially for younger generations during this time. I have a concrete belief that Vietnamese people will do their best to protect the country in a peaceful way.
The lesson of the late President Ho Chi Minh has proven its timeless value, as each Vietnamese seems to be well aware of the mission to protect the country, especially when the territorial tension is raised in the East Sea between Vietnam and China.
Moving on now to other news, the Vietnamese Cultural Center held a reception for an art exhibition featuring artists from Ho Chi Minh City and Laos yesterday in Vientiane. The exhibition was organized to honor the 124th birthday of the late President Ho Chi Minh. The exhibition features 25 paintings and sculptures by Vietnamese artists, along with artworks by local artists. The exhibition aims to introduce Vietnamese people, natural heritage, and culture to Laos, contributing to the strong tie between the two countries. Up next are some updates on the area near where China illegally placed its drilling oil rig in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. Let's take a look at the situation.
From Coast Guard Ship 8003, we can see there is always a strong force of Chinese ships participating in activities to prevent and even ready to collide with Vietnamese law enforcement ships as they attempt to broadcast announcements demanding Haiyan CO 981 leaves Vietnam's exclusive economic zones and continental shelf. As of May 13th, China had retained about 90 ships around their illegally placed oil rig. Several approached and fired water cannons when Vietnamese ships came closer. Chinese steel-hulled fishing boats continue to threaten wooden Vietnamese vessels.
For me, as a captain, I am absolutely against provocative actions. But when our Coast Guard forces try to complete our duty by approaching them and telling them to remove the illegal oil rig out of Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, the Chinese ships are aggressive, but we refrain ourselves from any collision.
Despite the aggression of the Chinese ships, Vietnamese law enforcement forces in the Paracel Islands still remain undeterred and resilient as they continue exercising a strong message underlining the country's sovereignty rights.
Foreign businesses in Bình Dương province have resumed production almost a week after riots by workers in the area. Many of the firms have met their deadlines thanks to the support from the Vietnamese authorities.
Kaiser Furniture Joint Stock Company resumed their production on Monday after almost a week of halting production. With the majority of workers back to work, they were able to deliver 30 containers of products for exports on time.
We have almost 4,000 workers return to work. Thanks to their eagerness, we have exported 30 containers today. The recent incident in Bình Dương has affected our production, but we are overcoming it.
Meanwhile, over 90% of enterprises in VSIP Industrial Park have resumed production. Although public order has been restored, businesses still hope to receive more support from the authorities to maintain their production security.
We hope the local authorities and police and security can continue their support, so our company can continue unaffected. We also want to see order and security maintained so workers can concentrate on their jobs.
As the industrial park returns to normal schedule, workers are happy to return to work. We're very happy to return to work. Our livelihoods will surely be affected if business don't resume their production. Moreover, the recent visit by State President Trương Tấn Sang further assured foreign investors the government's efforts in maintaining a good investment environment for them.
The police force has provided us with nearly 200 policemen protecting our company, so we have no worries when resuming production. We are impressed with the President's visit and the attention from local authorities given to foreign investors.
As foreign investors resuming their production all across Vietnam, the Vietnamese government is doing their best to maintain the security and stability of economic zones to help the nations remain an attractive investment destination.
Now, many schools nationwide have organized activities to show their support towards the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos and Vietnam's sovereignty. At the close of the academic year, 2,000 students at the Hanoi Amsterdam High School participated in the making of a special human map of Vietnam, which included the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos. Hanoi Amsterdam High School has also organized a donation campaign to show its support. For the inhabitants of Lý Sơn district, the Paracel Islands have been their traditional fishing grounds for generations, and they have preserved legal and historical documents to prove Vietnam's sovereignty over the Paracel Islands. Let's meet them in the following report.
Tuyen is the fifth-generation descendant of the Navy commanders Phạm Hữu Nhật, the first to receive King Minh Mang's order to lay a sovereign stone on the Paracel Islands, with 40 years of collecting documents and evidence proving Vietnam's sovereignties over the Hoàng Sa Paracel and Trường Sa or Spratly archipelagos. Mr. Tuyen now owns a national treasure.
The commanding orders in my house were granted by the king to any Navy soldiers sent to Paracel Islands. In Lý Sơn, there are many families possessing this order, so this is proof of our ancestors' duty in the Paracel Islands.
As for a fisherman like Ching, he was the one who discovered a stone stele with gnome script while he was fishing offshore in 1981. That script later was translated and understood as evidence proving Vietnam's sovereignty over Paracel Islands.
We tried to translate the script. It said that the stone stele was built long ago, just 1 year after Emperor Gia Long was ascended to the throne. We feel so proud that our ancestors in Lý Sơn Island also fought to protect Vietnamese sovereignty.
Despite the illegal Chinese placement of an oil rig in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone, fishermen from Lý Sơn Islands are still determined to go fishing offshore and to protect Paracel Islands, for which their ancestors died to protect.
The presence of our fishing boats with Vietnamese national flags flying in the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos will contribute to confirming Vietnam's sovereignty there. We can't live without Paracel Islands, the land our fathers died for.
The historical evidence proving that Paracel Islands belong to Vietnam are valuable documents for Lý Sơn and Vietnam in general, and they will be preserved for future generations.
In the latter half of our bulletin, Vietnam's delegation attends a ministerial meeting on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, in Singapore. And cultural artifacts go on display in Phu Thọ Province in celebration of the International Museum Day. Stay tuned for more updates coming up next after a short break. Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. A ministerial meeting of 12 countries involved in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, opened in Singapore on Monday morning. Vietnam's delegation to this meeting is headed by Trần Quốc Khánh, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade. Prior to the ministerial meeting, the chief negotiators and key experts from the 12 TPP members already discussed issues in such areas as goods and services market access packages, intellectual property, investment, the environment, state-owned enterprises, and financial services. These issues will be further discussed at plenary and bilateral meetings held within the framework of this ministerial meeting. Notably, Japan will also hold a bilateral meeting with the U.S. as both still cannot agree on issues regarding agro-produce and automobile products. Representatives from 20 countries gathered in Hanoi on May the 19th and 20th to share knowledge on author copyright protection in the world. Hosted by the International Confederation of Authors and Composer Societies, or SAISAC, the event has drawn attention of many national centers for music copyright protections across the world. Vietnam has been a member of the SAISAC since 2009. So far, the Vietnam Center for Music Copyright Protection has been working on the rights of some 2,800 local artists. It has collected more than $250,000 from copyright fees for ringtones, karaoke versions, and websites that offer digital music. In other news, an art troupe featuring Bingham Young University student performers brought a stunning musical show to Hanoi audiences as part of their Southeast Asian tour, some 20 years after their first visit to Vietnam. This time, the young ambassadors presented their newest show, Heart Songs, Melodies of Love, a 90-minute performance full of bright costumes, creative choreography, and favorite Broadway and radio tunes. VTV reporter Ming Chang has the story.
In the new 90-minute musical revue, audiences had a chance to see 20 of BYU's finest singers, actors, and dancers performing some of the most popular musical numbers from Broadway hits, such as Singing in the Rain, Crazy for You, Brotherly Modern Millie, Into the Woods, Dreamgirls, and Brotherhood of Man.
Being a member of the Young Ambassadors has always been a dream and a passion for me to do, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity I have to be part of this great group.
This is my 4th year at BYU, and this is my 1st year as a Young Ambassador.
Working with these young students every year keeps me young and excited about life. Our goal is to make every effort to make friends with music and dance as our medium of communication. We want to make friends with people all over the world. And I have great hopes for this new generation of people who are rising up and preparing to carry the world through the 21st century.
Audiences will be taking a trip back in time as they revisit the classics that changed the music industry forever, including songs from George Gershwin, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and Benny Goodman, and a journey through the music of today featuring popular artists like Michael Jackson, The Beatles, Whitney Houston, and Michael Bublé. Performers also surprised Vietnamese audiences with their final song, Trống Cơm, which they practiced only several days before the performance.
I was impressed by their youth and energy they put in every performance. I like the song about love of mankind the most.
I loved it. I think it's a great message that we can love each other no matter where we are, no matter who we are. We all need love. So I thought it was a great message.
The Young Ambassadors Ensemble is produced by the School of Music in the College of Fine Arts and Communications at Brigham Young University, Utah in the U.S. Vietnam is BYU Young Ambassadors' final stop in their Southeast Asian Tour 2014, which includes Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam.
In celebration of the International Museum Day on May the 18th and the 124th birthday of President Ho Chi Minh, Hùng Vương Museum in Phú Thọ Province has organized an exhibition to inspire a sense of pride in the nation's origins. More than 600 rare artifacts are on display at this event.
Artifacts on display at the exhibition include celadon enameled ceramics from the Li and Chen dynasties and brown enameled ceramics from the Lei dynasty. These artifacts range from worshipping items to decorations and household appliances. The highlight of the exhibit is an original Đông Sơn bronze drums dating back 2,500 years.
Besides ancient artifacts dating back thousands of years, we also display old objects from the feudal era, representing Vietnam's fight against northern colonialism. I think these artifacts have significant cultural values like the Đông Sơn bronze drums or bronze drums of the Hmong ethnic. Phú Thọ province tops the nation for the highest number of Hmong bronze drums.
The history and culture of Vietnam is vividly displayed through these artifacts. Together with private collectors, Hùng Vương Museum has gathered items from several northern provinces in the country. We have contributed over 100 objects to the exhibition. We are trying to collect and preserve these artifacts in a bid to maintain and promote the Vietnamese cultural values for younger generations.
Besides artifacts dating back thousands of years, the exhibition also has 21 stones taken from 21 islands in the Spratly archipelago on display. These items send a message of a united Vietnam with a long history that cannot be divided and compromised from foreign forces.
Up next, let's take a look at a few online articles about Vietnam. Danish processing group Aspersion will close a deal for the plant in Vietnam it currently leases in the summer, as it plans to ramp up production in the country, according to an article on undercurrentnews.com. Aspersion will increase production from 40% of its 10,000 metric ton capacity to fully utilize the plant as part of a 24-month business plan, said its CEO Claus Nielsen. As a result, the company will go from employing 300 to about 700 workers. The next story comes from TTRweekly.com. The Vietnam National Administration of Tourism estimates the country welcomed over 745,000 international travelers in April, representing an increase of 21.51% over the same month last year. China was again the top producer with over 216,000 visits, growing 41.56%, followed by South Korea, Japan, the United States, and Malaysia. All of the country's top markets are in the Asia-Pacific region, with the exception of the US and Russia. The bulk of arrivals in April passed through the two main aviation gateways, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The second annual ASEAN Music Festival will be held in Hanoi late this month by the United States Embassy in the capital city and CAMA Vietnam. The event will see performances of bands from the ASEAN region, including Protocol Afro from Indonesia, Big Bag from Myanmar, Pinholes from Singapore, and Stylish Nonsense from Thailand, according to Deutsche News. Art and community groups in and around Hanoi will also join to cheer up the festival. Themed ASEAN Pride Celebrating Diversity, the event aims to promote the cultural vibrancy of nations in the Southeast Asia region, as well as to raise ASEAN Pride awareness.
Foodbusinessnews.net reports Cowgirls has opened its first cocoa technology transfer centers in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. The center, which was built at a cost of $60,000, will be the first centers to serve as a cocoa training campus for about 2,000 farmers in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, Đồng Nai, and Bình Thuận provinces. Together with other technical training programs, it will help farmers improve yields by 30% to 50% in 3 years. The company said it hopes the new centers will equip farmers to thrive by providing the right skills and expertise. According to WorldCoffeePress.com, plans are afoot in Vietnam to uproot nearly 100 million coffee trees as part of a replanting initiative. It is a process that will not only limit the amount of coffee that the country can grow, but it will also impact export income over the course of the next few years. The average age of the coffee trees are getting too high. Trees that have been exposed to over 2 decades worth of harvest are likely to average around 1 ton of beans per hectare. That number is remarkably low when compared to much younger trees that can yield 150% more crop. The People's Committees of Central Thanh Hóa Province and a Vietnamese group broke ground on a $57 million golf course and international standard resort projects on Sunday. The FLC Sam Sơn Golf Links, to be built on an area of 92.4 hectares, will consist of an 18-hole golf course, high standard villas and hotels, and eco-friendly system including trees, lakes, and greensward. The project is slated to be completed within 10 months from now.
And that's also the last piece of news we have for you in this hour. Before saying goodbye, let's take a quick look at today's weather forecast. This is the end of VTV News for this hour. Thank you very much for being here with us. Simply visit our website at vtv4.vn to rewatch any of our programs online. For now, goodbye from Hanoi.